Put a 500 gig in, let it remirror. Of course, it's only going to mirror back to 80, right?
Right.
When it's done mirroring, take out the 80, pop in the other 500, let that mirror. You're still going to wind up with 80 gigabyte drive and a bunch of unallocated space, right?
Okay.
I would then get a Acronis disk director, which is a little more than the I thought it was cheaper, but it's actually more, about $100 more than the one to do a backup and recovery. It's around $600. But you can install that and expand the partition to the full 500 megs with no downtime. Actually, it might need one reboot. I think it does need one reboot.
Yeah, it sounds. I've done that before with Partition Magic, as someone had mentioned in the chat room, and also there's an open source Partition Magic like app out there that does the same thing.
What's that called?
I can't think of it right now, but I have used it successfully in the past on workstations. I haven't done it on servers.
I wouldn't do it on server. I think I know what you're talking about, and it looked just like Partition Magic.
Mm-hmm.
EaseUS. Was it EaseUS?
I think that's what it is, yes.
Okay. I've used that on workstations and it's crashed a workstation a few times. So I stopped using it.
Okay.
And I would definitely not do it for a server. Now, definitely, of course, before you do any of this stuff, run a backup.
Definitely.
Because there should be nightly backups, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Now, definitely, without doubt, run a backup. But I have used Disk Director many times on those Dell servers that come with 20 gig partitions.
Okay.
That's very annoying. 20 gig partition for the C and 400 whatever for the data. You know, I've done that many times without any problems. So, and I've called Acronis about this, and they say, yeah, it's no problem. So, stick in the new drives, let each one mirror. When you're happy with that, do Disk Director, expand the whole thing out. It'll take one reboot and you're done, as opposed to the hours and hours and hours it'll take for the image and restore. Plus, you've got to have a target for the image, so a USB drive or some other drive, because you've got to store that image somewhere you're making.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's in the long run, it's cheaper and much quicker with the Disk Director method, and especially with downtime. No, one reboot and you're done.
Cool. Yeah. Now we recently did this for. My roommate is also a network administrator, and he had a problem with the his Change 2003 environment. He was running out of space, but he didn't have the 110% free in order to defrag it, so he imaged it. I think he used Acronis and then put bigger hard drives in, put the image back on, and he was able to defrag the database at that point. Not defrag. What's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, to run offline defrag for Exchange?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah. See, he didn't need to do that. He could have, you can run Exchange, you can run the defrag to where the temp database is on a different drive.
Yeah, and he actually, for some reason, he just felt safe for going that route. But yes, I also seen that where you can offload it temporarily. So
yeah, when I have a server that I know I'm going to, if the database is like 70 gigs and I know that I'm going to reclaim about 40 or 50, I'll just stick an external hard drive on there and let that be the temp database. Otherwise, I got to buy a drive. But yeah. That's why when you're doing server planning, it's best to make sure you plan for growth.
That's right. Excuse me. Our next email is from Digital Micro. I have a business customer with 13 workstations. They all run Windows 7 Home Premium. They need a server for the purpose of email and file storage. Would it be okay to use the Windows 7 Professional anytime upgrade, or should I just do a clean install from a Windows 7 Professional OEM disk?
It depends on if you want to build it more. If you want to build it more, do a clean install. But one of the best things about Windows 7 is anytime upgrade. I love it because when those clients buy the wrong version, even though you told them not to, I always use anytime upgrade, and it always works perfectly. It's quick. I mean, basically, it just unlocks the features that are there already. So yeah, definitely anytime upgrade. Of course, save the code because if you have to reinstall, you'll need that code again.
Okay.
So I'll usually, in a perfect world, they're gonna have, well, from me, if I set up a computer, they've got a Ziploc with all the paperwork and CDs that came with the computer. The Office software is in that Ziploc. I also put a little sticker inside the bag that says this was on, let's say, an HP Elite 8200 serial number with the right serial number. So I can just look at the bag and say, nope, this is for the wrong computer. Because if you just have the Ziploc bag and they have 30 of those, which one goes to what, right?
I know.
So
Yeah.
in a perfect world, they'll have that. And if it's a new computer, we got to upgrade. I'll say, where are the CDs? And I'll print the anytime upgrade code and stick it in their file for that computer. So
Cool. Next email is from Jason. Matt, I have worked on a small computer repair company for 15 years. We started out with just me as the only tech. We currently have 3 technicians. My question is now that we have a growing number of business networks or clients to track, what software do you use to keep up with the server configs, workstation, password, printer shares, router information, and such? We would like to keep growing, so we need a good way to track things so that one tech can pick up at any time. Then he says, thanks for the podcast. And even though I've been doing this for a while, it's always great to learn new ways of doing things. All right. So Jason here, he's growing his clientele. How does he keep all the information about his clients, about the network?
well, I think there's a few ways. I know that we use ConnectWise right now to manage a bunch of that stuff, but that's really expensive. So a 3 tech shop probably is not going to want to go with ConnectWise. It does asset tracking. Have notes fields for all that stuff. So if you have client A with a server, you can put in all the information about that server in their section of the program. Like I said, it's expensive. And we used Track It before from Numera software, I think it was. Track It. That doesn't do as much. That'll do work order tracking, but not a lot of tracking like he's talking about. The easiest thing, and this is greatly debated by many techs on the best way to do this. We have on our server, we have a client files folder. So client A has a folder, client B, and in there we have whatever we need for that client. If we have licenses, PDF copies are in there, text documents with passwords, and whatever else we need for that client is in there. That's a cheap way to go. I mean, we still use it even though we have ConnectWise. We still use that. We're trying to put everything in ConnectWise, but that's very time consuming for hundreds of clients, of course. But that's what ConnectWise or just the text documents on your server.
Yeah. At work, we use the spreadsheets. There's one spreadsheet that we use. It's the master. It's password protected, which means absolutely nothing. But I mean, it has a whole bunch of tabs. Me and one of my guy who we work on almost every project that we do together or every deployment. We use Evernote actually to sync up our notes, but we don't put any passwords on there due to the fact that it's out there in the cloud. But we keep information that we can quickly refer to on Evernote, but we just use spreadsheets. So.
Now, when in the chat they're saying SharePoint, and SharePoint would be good. I actually have 3 huge books on SharePoint, so I've been reading about SharePoint. So SharePoint would be good. We just have to. I'd be worried. If you have a lot of clients, let's say 200 clients, I mean, how would you organize that? Would you have a site for each client? So that can be kind of sticky there as well.
Yeah, and because SharePoint, you can actually, it's totally up to you. You know, you can create that thing however you want, and I guess how you organize it and just stick with it. So cool. Anything else on that topic?
No. Well, one thing, the good thing about the text documents is if you have, well, I can put password like just for the pound. We have passwords. I mean, they're local to us and they're secured. So, um, I can put password is this, and then if we change it, password is this, and then the last one, old password, change whatever. So I have a history of passwords.
Okay.
So I can go back 4 or 5 passwords ago and see, oh, if somebody forgot to reset the password here, what is it? I can try all the passwords that we were aware of.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, whatever works best for everybody.
No, and me personally, for all my websites and all the things I do and the 8,000 devices at my home, I use password safe because, you know, that's encrypted. But again, that's for me, just one. Imagine if I was just one client, you know, if I had 200, that thing can become out of hand or hard to manage. So
That's a good idea for a nice product is some kind of software dedicated to managing client info for text.
there you go. Somebody do it and say that, I was seeing Podnutz Pro one day. All right. Next email from Dan. He has sent me to the original email says, "Hey Lalo, thanks for a good show. You and Matt, the Jedi Master, are the best." How come I don't get any nicknames, but you get all of them? This is amazing. Can you help me with Outlook profile? I created an Outlook 2007. He uses a Change 2010. When selecting the profile, it opens up the inbox and folders for the Outlook profile. So I responded and said, "Could you further elaborate on your email?" And he says, "I have a user that needs an additional email address. I added the new email address," he called it email address B, "and it's a change profile. He would like to be able to send emails either one by selecting the appropriate profile. We're using Exchange 2010 and Outlook 2007. I created an additional profile in Outlook. When we select the profile to open, it does open, but ends up opening the original email bot/folders. So I see the email from email address A and not B. Is this a limitation of Exchange or Outlook? Hope this is a better explanation."
So what it sounds like is, let's just say this is Dan's. Let's say Dan at whatever.com. And then he wants Dan S at whatever.com. Is that what you're getting from this too?
And when I read this, I see the send as function.
Right. Here's the problem I think is happening. It sounds like he went into Exchange Management Console and added an alias for the same account. So it's one account with his default address, and then he added an alias, is what I'm understanding.
Okay.
And he wants to be able to send mail as the alias.
Right.
Okay. Unfortunately, with Exchange, you cannot send mail as an alias. You can receive mail as an alias, but you cannot send mail as an alias.
Because we're in the route to be at is, for example, we were all part of change, the same as Change environment. I wanted to send email as matt@podnutz.com. I would have permission to send email as you.
Right, but let's say I have an address matt@podnutz.com, and I want to send mail as mattr@podnutz.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can't make an alias. I've got to have a different account.
Right.
So if I just want to be able to receive email at multiple accounts, I can add aliases. But if I want to send mail as other addresses, you've got to have a different mailbox. So let's say he has Dan as his normal one, but he wants to send as Dan S. He needs to create another account with Dan S. Then he can set up the send as in Outlook. Or, I mean, if he doesn't mind having 2 Outlook profiles, it sounds to me that both profiles point to the same account.
Right.
So if he wants to change profiles, he can do a new profile for the Dan S account. Or he can set up the send as to send as Dan S from his Dan account. But they have to be separate accounts. You can't exchange, and it'd be nice if it would do it, because it would be nice if you just have, because you can show the from field in Outlook